Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. We've got another systems edition for you, and this is all about the NCIX PC LP1. This is the first system that does away with the Vesta name, and it is so full of win, LP stands for LANParty, in case you guys didn't figure that out, that it actually needs a handle to carry around all of its winness. Oh man, that's heavy from this angle. Clink, clink. Now, as usual, we're going to check out the outside of the system first. So this is the NZXT Vulcan. It has a couple of pretty cool features. So it's an MATX case. It has two 5¼ bays in the front, one of which is populated by the NZXT Hue lighting system, which is extremely cool. We'll show you more about this once we get inside. We've also got a couple of integrated fan speed controllers right there, so you can turn those dials and do whatever you need to do with them. Also on the front is two 3½ bays, one of which is populated by a USB 3 port as well as a card reader that plugs in internally. And last but not least, you've got some lighting effects here at the front as well as a 120mm filtered meshed intake. Now when we move to the other side here, you find a pretty plain black sheet of metal. However, you'll see that there's a bit of a bulge around here. That is for cable management behind the motherboard tray. That's what allows the case to stay small, but still have enough room for the things that you need to do when you're building it or working on it. Now, you saw that USB 3 was added at the front. There's a reason for that. The case by default has reset, power, headphones, microphone, two USB 2.0 ports, and eSATA, but does not ship with USB 3. So that's why, in order to hit the price point with front USB 3 and the card reader, NCIX, actually, this is the prototype, downgraded the power supply in the production version. So when we open it up, I'll show you more about that. The handle on top has two 120mm fans under it and is extremely sturdy. So check this out, guys. I can lift the case up easily, shake it around by the handle. If I'm transporting this thing, this is a handle that I'll actually trust to not just snap off. There have been cases in the past with handles where that has not been a demo that I would confidently be able to do. So right here, you guys get the first glimpse of the Hue lighting system because this entire side panel is covered with an enormous mesh, which acts kind of like a window because you can pretty much see right through it to the goodies inside. This mesh is popped out in much the same way as the other side panel. Check this out. This is to give you more clearance for beefy components. So there's a Havoc CPU cooler in there that you can see would normally conflict with the side panel, but actually comes out into the bulging area right here, keeping that CPU nice and cool. There's a fan mount built into the mesh side panel, but because it's using a large CPU cooler, that is not something that we're going to be able to use on this particular system here. I/O is provided by the MSI motherboard inside, so we find 6 USB 2.0 ports, a PS2 port, gigabit Ethernet, two USB 3.0 ports, VGA, DVI, 7.1 audio out, and the I/O down here on the video card is provided by a GTX 660 Ti. Once we open up the case, we find the magic that went into making that, there we go, making that high-profile CPU cooler fit. So that's the popped-out mesh, and the side panel is actually surprisingly rigid, given that there's not much left to the metal that makes it up. So kudos to NCXT for getting the design and reinforcement right in that way. So spec-wise, this is a pretty beast machine, and at $1,300, it would have to be. The CPU is a 3570K and is cooled by an NZXT Havoc. So the Havoc is an enormous tower cooler that actually has, in a U shape, 6 heat pipes, so you get 12 total effective heat pipes and two 140mm fans. These are mounted using rubber anti-vibration noise dampening mounts, so it means that it not only performs extremely well, but it is also extremely quiet. Now all of this is installed on an MSI GD45 NATX 1155 motherboard. It supports Crossfire but not SLI, unfortunately, but it also has the benefit of supporting 4 DIMMs. Not all micro ATX boards do. This one has 2 sticks populating it already. These are Kingston HyperX limited edition black modules, so that's a total of 8 gigs, so you can expand that to up to 16 gigs. The video card is an MSI GTX 660 Ti, so this is almost a top-tier card, and it's using the latest Twin Frozer 4 cooler. So that means lots of heat pipes, dual fans on that bad boy, and it will not only cool very effectively, but I would expect this card to overclock quite well as well. Now, it doesn't do rear exhaust like reference cards do, but if you have a well-ventilated chassis, you don't have to worry about that too much, and this chassis is nothing if not well-ventilated. We've got an NZXT Hue 82 power supply in here. It's going to be a 650 watt in the shipping model. That is a semi-modular power supply, so all of your critical cables are pre-attached, and then you can expand it as needed. Now, okay, we've got not only the Kingston RAM, but also a Kingston SSD in there. So that's the SSD Now V300 SandForce-based SSD. That's a 120 gig drive. I'd expect an SSD for any gaming system that is going to be over around $1,000. However, if I was going to recommend a small upgrade, it might be to add an additional hard drive for storage if you want to be able to fit more games on the system. Now, I promised to show the NZXT Hue lighting system before, and I'd like to do that now. So you can see it runs all the way, hopefully you can see this, all the way from the top of the case, around to the back of the case, and finally down to the bottom of the case. Hopefully I can get you an angle on that. Can you see that all right? Yep. And finally to the front of the case. So it's an enormous LED strip that runs around the entire inside, giving it a really cool glow all around the, well, the window, the mesh window, as well as through the top grille, so you can see not only the orange from the LED fans, but also the purple from the NZXT Hue lighting system. But the coolest thing about it is that it is actually user configurable. So you can change the color to whatever you want. There's multiple LEDs at each location, and you can use these dials at the front to change not only color, but also things like breathing effects as well. It makes for a very customizable, very cool interior lighting system. So it's conclusion time, folks, and you might have noticed that we're in the dark here a little bit. Part of this is because, you know, it's a LAN gaming system, and at LANs you'll be kind of in the dark. So I want to show you guys what makes it kind of cool to have peripherals. So here we have Razer's StarCraft 2 line of peripherals, the Banshee, the Marauder, and the Spectre headset, keyboard, and mouse respectively. So what you can do with these is you can change them to any color you want. And because the system can also change to any color you want using the 3 RGB dials on the front, I wanted to show you what it might look like if you had a system color scheme that matched your peripheral color scheme. Very cool stuff. But you don't have to do that. You can have a system color scheme that, let's see, we'll crank them all the way to very bright white. Aha, there we go. That is actually kind of different from your peripheral color scheme. The reason I bring this up is Razer peripherals have special deals running with NCIX PC systems. If you add any NCIX PC system to your cart, you'll see those special deals pop up. And I just want to show you guys one more thing before I wrap up here with the Hue lighting system. So here we go. Let's crank it all the way to green so you can see what that looks like. And finally, if you press the mode button, you can change it to flashing as well as breathing and cycling. Lots of cool stuff you can do with it. Thank you for checking out this NCIX PC Systems Edition episode of NCIX Tech Tips on the LP1. Don't forget to subscribe to NCIX Tech Tips for more videos like this from your favorite retailer, NCIX.com.